Good evening. Let's move on to Chapter 4, Part 2 of my UFO UAP study guide, A Guide to First Contact. And we're going now to, we could call them subdivisions or subparagraphs of the main question of Chapter 4, which is what will we learn from investigating the UAP UFO phenomena, right? And I'm going to try to be very clear, but just realize I'm a little tired. I've had a long day, so I might not get all the chapters in tonight. I will do my best. All right. Number one, we're going to learn that we are not alone, unique, or the most advanced intelligence or civilization in this galaxy. And I want to address something right away, which is that it would be very different if we went out there and discovered another civilization, right? We would have to upgrade and level up our technology and our understanding of many different fields of science, to overcome the obstacles that involve traveling over millions of light years, maybe billions, right? And unknown stretches of time, anywhere from years to decades to centuries to millennia, who knows more. Or we would have to discover some type of wormhole technology, technology, extra dimensional travel, or other unfathomable things. All right. So, but the fact that something from out there, wherever there is and whatever that thing is, got here means that whatever that agency is, whatever beings or AI or whatever got here, has capabilities that we can only dream of and speculate about, which makes them more advanced, more powerful, probably more knowledgeable. All right? And we are not there. So automatically that puts the whole planet in an inferior position, and specifically the technologically powerful nations, the superpowers, superpowers on a scale of this planet, but maybe not superpowers on the scale of creatures that can cross these great fantastic distances. Okay, so the reason why I say that is, let's take a look at what has to be done. Let's say, I'm not going to pick the Alpha Centauri system because that star is very variable and puts out all kinds of radiation, solar flares, and it's highly unlikely that life as we know it could survive. But let's say there's a system out there that is as stable as ours, or better, or even more conducive to life, and let's say it's 30 light years away or 50 light years away, right? So if you have a drive that can be active long enough, even if the acceleration is modest, over time you build up speed and you get up to relativistic speed. So you need something capable of generating amazing amounts of power for long times, maybe decades, maybe centuries, and we don't know how big the object is that is being moved. Is it a spaceship the size of my apartment? Is it the size of a moon? Is it a space station with an engine on it? That's all something to think about. All right, people? So, then there is the fact that during the transit over here, I mean, if you're traveling fast, the materials of the craft are under great strain. If you're traveling fast enough, a grain of sand or a pebble hitting your spaceship could destroy it or heavily damage it. Maybe Star Trek talks about a deflector shield, a magnetic field, or maybe a physical ablation shield. There needs to be some kind of technology to protect you against that physical danger. And then there's the radiation of outer space, which could sterilize and kill organic life. So there has to be a way to protect against that. And then there's the fact that traveling for such a long time, um, you have got to either have a way of having a long life or hibernating or digitizing yourself. We don't have that. And then there's medical technology of how to fix yourself. Um, if you understand things at a level of molecules and atoms and subatomic particles, and you have better manipulation of this than we do, then you could perform medical miracles. You could rejuvenate. Maybe you could be functionally immortal or incredibly long lived. And then you also have the idea that if we know that there is life out there that got here, panspermia may have played a key role in the development of life on this planet. Maybe there are several visitations. Maybe there were visitations centuries, millennia, millions of years, or billions of years in the past that seeded life here or affected life that already existed, right? These are all advanced things that we right now cannot do and can only speculate about. Um, and then, there's really crazy stuff like extra dimensional travel, wormholes. Are they time travelers from the past or the future? Uh, that miraculous. That's up there with mythology, religion, um, talks of magic and sorcery, because we can't think of a mechanism that would do that, but we can postulate, all right? As Professor Avi Loeb likes to say, we are probably not the brightest kid on the block, all right? So, number two, this is a big one for me. The failure of the scientific community to discover and address this. The phenomena has been some type of, there have been records of it, reports of it, data for about 80 years at the most modest estimation. And yet, the scientific method is one of our greatest achievements as a species. All you religious people, spiritual people, and I count myself among these, you have to understand that I'm talking about within this material realm of provability and testability. Nothing has succeeded like the scientific method or things close to it, things involving testing and thought, speculation, logic, because every problem we have had, we've been able to leverage this. We haven't been able to not die, but we've cured many diseases that cause death. We've extended lifespans. We've improved quality of life. We've been able to use it for horrible things like weapons and also good things like agriculture. And so the scientific method, we know it works, but for some reason the scientific community, which is the guardian of the scientific method, will have been revealed to us, failed us. And I honestly believe that the cause of that is that while science is merely a way of pressure testing ideas, data, information, it is done by people. And people are subject to human limitations and biases, right? And as I've mentioned, there is a culture of mockery and derision and suppression, people being afraid to come out and talk of these things. And despite all that, the issue hasn't gone away, and now it's even more robust with more robust data. All right. I would compare, if it was revealed conclusively that the UFO UAP phenomena is a techno signature from either an alien civilization, a crypto civilization, an extra dimensional civilization, or something that is not of human civilization as we know it. It would be like seeing a knight in shining armor with his lance and his sword and his shield on horseback on a huge knight's charger, and then the horse itself has armor, barding it's called, as if he went into battle and was knocked off of his horse and knocked unconscious by a peasant, a teenage peasant with a quarterstaff. Okay? But the odds will say that given a big enough time and a big enough sample size, anything can happen, right? Just about anything. So, I think that bears mentioning that we will need to find ways to ensure that when we use the scientific method, we don't make mistakes like this. Maybe we will change the protocols of publishing work and peer review and all that, so that we can eliminate this limitation. All right. Now I have a little bit more time. We will know for sure that things we thought impossible are possible. Most of our science will need a rethink. Okay. If we confirm that things fly at Mach 10 to 20 and have these maneuvers, we have to change our understanding of material science. We have to immediately rethink what we think our limitations are and parameters are, and that alone will be productive. Actually, I think we should be doing it on a speculative basis now in engineering schools and schools, biology departments and things like that. Maybe there should be like a hypothetical exercise for advanced students, a way for them to stretch their mind. Okay. The reason I say that is because even a glimpse of something that is far more technologically advanced than you have, the right kind of glimpse, can set you ahead. So let's take a Bronze Age culture, for example, like the Sumerians. Very smart people. Sumerians, ancient Greece, ancient India. You had a lot of ancient Bronze Age African civilizations that were wealthy, organized, built megastructures, and so they had some kind of understanding of things like leverage, material science, military science, agriculture. If you would have introduced them to a smartphone, you turn it on and you show them a couple things, they would have a lot of trouble understanding just what this. It would just be magic. Okay? It would be a magic you have. They wouldn't know how to turn it on, turn it off unless you showed them. Even if you did, they don't know what the internet is. If you went back in time, there'd be no internet, so that would be one thing. However, what if they saw a bulldozer and a tractor and a crane at work? They understand pulleys, they understand the wheel, and they would begin to grasp that, yes, there's something magical here. They couldn't grasp the power source, particularly if it was electric and they didn't see smoke coming out. But they would be like, oh, you can do this with metal, and it's a different kind of metal. And look at those cables, look at those tracks, look at those tires. Immediately, if they were educated among the higher class, educated about this, their structure builders, their masons, and so on and so forth, they would begin to get ideas, and they would have directions for thought experiments and actual experiments and tinkering. All right. Same thing if I went to one of the Mesoamerican cultures, Aztecs, Mayans, who didn't, as far as we know, didn't have the wheel, but they had advanced mathematics and astronomy. And you drove a car around on a motorcycle and a bicycle, and then you disassembled it in front of them and put it back together. They weren't unintelligent people, and I believe that immediately that would give them new ideas, right? And they would begin to experiment and implement. So simply knowing that a limitation that you thought existed isn't the limit, right, will cause changes in your research and in your tinkering, in your engineering, and so on and so forth. The example I give is, I think his name was Dr. Siegel, Siegel, I think it was, or was it Bannister? I think it was Dr. Bannister. He ran the first oh, sub like 4 minute mile. Okay, before that, nobody was doing it, and people thought that if you did that, you would destroy yourself, you would die, right? I mean, nowadays there are high schoolers that can do it, many college people, and he had to experiment with different training methods, and he figured it out. And the funny thing is, once he did it, immediately afterwards, other people began to accomplish this without even using his training protocols, but they understood the limitation wasn't the limitation. You understand? Revolutions work that way. For example, if you have a culture where people really buy into the dominance hierarchy, and they believe the ruling class is sacred, like the divine right of kings, or the god kings and priest kings of certain cultures. And if one person just realizes that that's not really the truth, that the leaders are just people, there's nothing that special about them, and some of this magic is just nonsense, and they publicly start defying this, if they're charismatic and credible, people will begin also defying this, adopting new behaviors, and it could go viral, as we like to say. Okay, it could spread out and change a whole society. Now, I'm going to end that chapter 4, part 2, and I am feeling really tired. It's been a long day. I had a very tough training session Friday. Did a lot of legs and martial arts. So what I'm going to do is try to turn early, get up in the morning, and do my exercise routine, do some martial arts, do some cardio, hit the gym, try to clear my mind, and I'm going to pick this back up tomorrow. Okay? Y'all have a good night. I'm exhausted.